continue our lesson. Are you all excited? Are you ready? Fine. Very good. I know that you all are very keen to attend the next class. I can be very proud of you if you have done all your reading and writing works of previous class. Have you done? I mean the previous homeworks. In case you didn't understand or you didn't find the answer of any particular question from the side of homework, nothing to worry. You can find it after this class. Okay, good. Now, do you remember the two characters of the story? Two characters? Jimmy Wells and Bo. Students, what time does the story begin? Did you get the answer of this question? Surely. The story begins barely at 10 o'clock. Barely at 10 o'clock. Barely at 10 o'clock. Okay, it is at night. Both men had been many friends for many years. We saw it in the story. They were friends for many years. At that time, they had determined to meet up 20 years later to see how their lives had turned out. Jimmy and Bo. Jimmy, do you remember? Jimmy is a fine looking cop. Cop means policeman, correct? Cop. Means policeman. He was a fine looking cop, fine looking policeman, watchful, guarding the peace. These are all the descriptions about Jimmy. How was the policeman on the beat? Do you remember? Anyone? Correct answer. He was a fine picture of a guardian of peace. He was strongly built and walked with a slight slugger. He moved impressively. Hope that all of you got this answer. The story mostly focuses on Bob's life, and so he is considered the protagonist of the story. That means the main character of the story. Okay, children. Now let us read and understand the second paragraph. All of you, please listen carefully. In the doorway of a darkened hardware store, a man leaned with an unlighted cigar in his mouth. As the policeman walked up to him, the man spoke up quickly. "It's all right, officer," he said reassuringly. "I'm just waiting for a friend." It is an appointment made 20 years ago. Sounds a little funny to you, doesn't it? Well, I will explain. If you would like to make certain, it's all straight. About that long ago, there used to be a restaurant where this store stands. Big Joe Brady's restaurant. Students, what do we understand from the second paragraph? In the first paragraph, we saw that there is a line, trying doors as he went. If you look into the first paragraph, you can see trying doors as he went. Now, in the second paragraph, see, in the doorway of a darkened hardware store. What does it mean? It is told about Jimmy. It is clearly mentioned about Jimmy. Who is the man leaned in the story? In the second paragraph, we see a man leaned. Where was he leaning? In this paragraph, we found a man leaned. Where was he leaning? Can anyone say the answer? Yes, correct. Students, it is correct. The man was leaning in the doorway of a darkened hardware store. Students, what else we understand from paragraph 2? Here, as the policeman walked up to him, the man spoke up quickly. We understand the man who was leaning at the door of hardware store, started speaking quickly. That means he understood something because he had something, confusion going on in his mind. Okay, this sentence showed Jim's strong sense of responsibility. Because Jim, barely at 10, was moving here and there. Then he was very watchful, and it had to be a darkened store. Remember it, darkened store. Darkened store and Bob's cigar. What is the meaning of cigar? Students, we know it is used for smoking. We see here unlighted cigar. Unlighted means not lighted or unlit. Okay, why was it unlighted? You know, because if Bob's cigar had to be lighted, then what happened? Jim would have identified Bob easily, but it was unlighted. Bob's cigar had to be unlighted, otherwise Jim would see that it was the man wanted by the police in Chicago. Clear? It was the man wanted by the police in Chicago. Now Jim couldn't identify because he didn't light the cigar. The man was eager to explain to the police. What? To the police officer, he was very eager to explain, which reflected the mentality of a man who was wanted by the police. Understood? Students, do you follow me? Yes, it is strange. It's very strange that they didn't recognize each other. They didn't recognize each other, students. Please understand, they didn't recognize each other. It could be the darkness and long separation. Maybe the day darkness can be the one reason, or long separation can be the other reason. Whatever it is. Okay, they couldn't identify or recognize each other. It could also be that on Jim's part, he was cautious. Another reason, Jim was very cautious. Paragraph 3 is the turning point of the story. Here in paragraph 3, we see the main aspect of the story, or in other words, the plot of the story can be seen in this paragraph. He explains that he met his best friend Jimmy Wells. Who explains? Bob. Who was his best friend? Jimmy Wells. 20 years before at a restaurant known as Big Joe Brady's restaurant. Understood? That is the plot of the story. On that night, they parted. Remember, they decided to part. Okay, on that night, they parted ways so that they could make their own life decisions. They agreed, they decided that they would meet again back 20 years later. Very interesting. Okay, here they planned to meet 20 years later. See again, as the story moves, he asked, sounds a little funny to you, doesn't it? Again, previously you see reassuringly. You know the meaning of the word reassuringly. Why? Because it is already mentioned in the textbook. Okay, here a new word for you, sounds. Sounds a little funny to you, doesn't it? Okay, very important word, sounds here. I can give you a few more examples with sounds. Please look at. Students, it sounds like a fun. But is that really a fun? No, it was not at all a fun. Bob said that it was not at all a fun. It was a serious matter that they have decided to meet after 20 years. Why do we feel it funny? Can you say, why do we feel it funny? We feel funny because Bob had come from the west to keep an eye, to keep an appointment made 20 years ago. That is why we feel it as a fun. Okay, The man spoke up quickly because he didn't want to be taken for a criminal. He spoke like that. He spoke seriously because he didn't want to be taken for a criminal. He wanted to tell him that he was there to meet a friend. He was there to meet a friend. They were so close once. They were close friends 20 years ago when they were very young. Before their separation, before they decided to separate, before they planned to move into different directions, what they happened? They made an appointment, they made a decision to meet again at exactly the same place here, same place and the same hour 20 years later. Same place, same hour. Remember, same place, same hour. Now, let's read the coming paragraphs and listen very carefully. Until 5 years ago, said the policeman. It was torn down then. The man in the doorway struck a match and lit his cigar. The light showed a pale, square-jawed face with keen eyes and a little white scar near his right eyebrow. His scarf pin was a large diamond, oddly set. 20 years ago tonight, said the man, I dined here at Big Joe Brady's with Jimmy Wells, my best chum and the finest chap in the world. He and I were raised here in New York just like two brothers together. I was 18 and Jimmy was 20. The next morning, I was to start for the West to make my fortune. You couldn't have dragged Jimmy out of New York. He thought it was the only place on earth. Well, we agreed that night that we would meet here again exactly 20 years from that date and time, no matter what our conditions might be or from what distance we might have to come. Students, underline these words. First one, tone down. Tone down means, what is the meaning of tone down? An act of completely taking into pieces something. An act of completely taking into pieces something. Next, struck. You may find another word in the next line, struck. Struck means it's the past tense of past form of strike. Strike, past form of strike. That means hit forcibly, with the force. Hit forcibly. Next word, pale. Square jawed face. The next word, pale. Pale means light in color. Light in color. Next, square jawed face. You may see square jawed face. Jaw, square, jaw. It means having a regular, approximately rectangular jaw. Approximately rectangular jaw. Next word you may see, keen, sharp. Keen means sharp. Another word, scar. Please underline these words. Another one, scar. Scar means, we know that, a mark. Correct? When we move to the next paragraph, please underline the new words. Dined. D-I-N-E-D. Dined. What is the meaning of dined? What is the meaning of dine? Dine means eat dinner. Dined means ate dinner. Correct? Now next word, chum. C-H-U-M. A close friend. A close friend. Hope that the rest of the words you are familiar with. And now, when we look into the meaning of these paragraphs, we see that the match light showed a face which must have fitted the description of the wanted man, especially the square jaw and white scar. And we see the diamond placed in a strange or unusual way, showing the owner's lack of taste. Bob said that he had the dinner at this place, at this spot, which was the spot decided 20 years ago. Do you remember the spot? Correct. It was there. And you know what was the age of Jimmy and Bob that time? Yes, Bob says he was 18 and Jimmy was 20 when they got separated, or when they decided to separate. Bob was 18 and Jimmy was 20. Students, he asked about that particular spot. What is the condition? The place, the hardware store stands now, was having a restaurant. What happened to the restaurant? Then the policeman said it was torn down. Torn down means demolished. That means it was completely removed or moved into pieces. Okay, students, it's our time to stop here and time for observing the homework for the coming days. Now let's look into the homework, and I hope everybody will do the work neatly and legibly. Thank you. Let's listen.